welcome to another episode of Hate Read. I'm Anna.
And I'm Em. Usually on Hate Read, one of us challenges the other to read a book that we think they'll hate. But sometimes we like to do rewind episodes where we revisit books that we've read in the past that we did hate, and we talk about it and see if we still hate them. This fortnight, Anna chose to read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien as her...
I think The Hobbit chose me.
as her middle school rewind episode. So first things first, Anna, why do you hate this book? The world wants to know.
The world wants to know why I hate the Hobbits. Well, to be honest, when I first picked this up, I didn't care for it for a superficial reason, which is I don't like books that have songs in them, and this one has like a shit ton of songs to read in them because it just like stresses me out trying to think of like how do they sound and like what rhythm should I be thinking of this in. I don't know, it was too much for middle grade me to want to deal with, so I never finished the book. And then I did try to pick it up a few more times after I was of an age where I could accept that there were sometimes songs in books, especially for younger readers. But then by then it was just too boring, and I put it down every time I started it as well. I just am not a huge fan of his writing style.
So you hadn't finished it before, but you did finish it this time, correct?
I did finish it this time, and yes,
what'd you think?
It was... Oh my god. It was a journey in multiple ways. I think my biggest issue with this book is that everything happens because someone makes a very stupid decision or doesn't follow very good advice. And that was very frustrating to me.
Yeah, I had read this as a kid. I want to say for like 6th or 7th grade, we had to do a book report, and we had like 5 books we could choose from, and one of them was The Hobbit, and because I was a little fantasy nerd, I was like, oh, I'll do that. And I didn't hate it. I remember for my project, I made a puppet of Smaug out of like paper cups and shit, which I don't know what that has to do with like understanding the book, but that was a option that was available to us.
You took away that there was a character named Smaug in the book, and he was a dragon.
But yeah, that was pretty much all I remembered of my reading experience with this book. I've seen the animated movie again in school. That was terrible, and I have seen one of the 3 Hobbit movies.
I've sadly seen all 3 of them, and I hated all 3 of them. I was so bad I watched every single one.
After I read this book, I was kind of like before I read this book, and when they were making the movies, I was like, why are they making 3 of them? This is so unnecessary. But after I read this book, I was kind of like, you know what? I actually get it, because at least 2. Like, I definitely feel this should have been 2 books, because there is a complete story that is finished when the fucking dragon dies, and then there's a whole other story that happens at the end, and I'm just like, why just make 2 books? Which, I mean, like, you know, he wrote this before Lord of the Rings, so maybe he wasn't into sequels at that point, I don't know, but yeah, I definitely feel like I might go watch the movies now, because I did not mind this book at all.
No,
sorry.
Just go watch like the version that's been edited to take out all of the stuff that was not in the books or something. I don't know. I know there's a version on YouTube that combines all the movies.
But part of the stuff that's not in the books is whichever dwarf is played by Aidan Turner getting more screen time. So I was
Billy or Killy,
whichever one has the romance, which like I don't care about the romance part, but he's hot, so I would like more screen time of him.
Yeah, well, I agree that this could also be split into 2 books because so we get to the 80% mark, and I don't know, are there other people out here who don't know what The Hobbit is about?
Should we recap it quickly, or try to go beat by beat?
Yeah, Gandalf basically forces Bilbo to do something against his will, and he goes with all these dwarves to the Lonely Mountain to restore Thorin to the throne of the king of the mountain and defeat Smaug and get their treasure back, which they do. But then after they defeat Smaug,
well, they don't defeat Smaug.
Oh yeah, after
other set of characters we have not been introduced to.
Totally anticlimactic defeat of Smaug, which was like, and one of the things that really annoyed me about Tolkien's writing style is he's like, so if you want to know what happened to Smaug, I will tell you, but it's going to be in like a 2-page summary, and you know, it was the whole thing the whole book was building up to, but he's dead. And then there's 20% more of the book left where he's like, and then everyone else started fighting because goblins. And gold. They wanted gold. Yeah.
And then the eagle saved them because...
Yeah, because why not? Like, sure. This book is like one Deus Ex Machina after another. And it really fucking pissed me off.
But that's the thing. I was like, I don't mind it because... I don't know. Well, and here's the other thing. I told you this morning when I woke up and told you I hadn't read this book yet. And I was going to have to do it before we did this podcast, that I was going to cheat. So I actually didn't read this. I listened to the 1970s audiobook.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not cheating.
Well,
that is still you invested time.
First of all, because I had other shit to do. So I was like trying to do it while listening to this book. And
no wonder you had such an exact time that you would be available. I should be done in about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because it's set on YouTube. But the first off, I highly recommend, if anyone wants to read The Hobbit or reread The Hobbit, just go listen to the 1970s audiobook. It's available on YouTube.
Do they do the songs?
Well, first off, the songs are a delight because the guy who is doing the narration clearly doesn't know how to sing. So he just doesn't bother.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was just really bad.
He just chants all the songs, which is a choice that was made. There's also like some really interesting choices in terms of accents. Like pretty much everybody just has like a English, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, accent.
Of course.
Except the goblins and Golem kind of sound vaguely like they might be some sort of ethnicity that he's going for.
Nice.
Which is really uncomfortable.
Nice.
Like, I'm not entirely sure. It could just be like a Welsh accent with more S's in it or something. I don't know. But it sounds like he's going for something, and it made me a little uncomfortable. But aside from that, it is actually, I think, a pretty good adaptation of it, and he also abridges stuff slightly. So he cuts he cuts a lot of the like description of shit that like we don't need. And when it gets to the 18 endings, because like anyone who is
and then they
familiar,
went home, but then they stopped here, and then they stopped here,
and then he went home some more. There's like an entire chapter that's just, and then he went home, but like with actually there's like 2 chapters that are the endings, but he basically cuts the entire last chapter.
Excellent.
He's just like, and then they returned back to Bilbo's door, and I'm like, oh, that's actually a good place for this to stop, because we opened with like, oh, in a hole in the ground lived a hobbit. Like, great. Yeah, we're ending circle, ring structure. Great, good. You did it.
Ring structure.
Well, okay, that was not intentional. But yeah, it was a pretty enjoyable way to
I would have liked that
consume, I guess, this book. But I also feel like I was generally less annoyed by stuff because I was kind of not really focusing on it. But I had fun. Like, it was good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Meanwhile, I trudged along in this book, reading every single word and hating it. I didn't know there was sweet release in the form of an audiobook.
There's multiple audiobooks. There's so many different ways you guys can enjoy the story of The Hobbit. You can listen to the audiobook from the 70s, You can listen to one of the 1800 other versions of the audiobook. You can listen to, like, there's like 3 radio dramas. There's like 2 animated versions.
It's like everyone in the world likes this book except me.
Yeah, I don't know what's the deal. Here's the thing. I'm like, I liked it, but, well, and this is the thing with, I say this is the thing so much on this fucking podcast, but this is the thing. This is the thing with any book that is well regarded and more than like 3 decades old, is that it influences so much other stuff that
that's true.
All feels kind of stale. But it's not necessarily that it's like, it wasn't stale at the time, and if you go into it knowing when it was written, whatever, you can be like, oh, well, obviously this influenced this other stuff.
Right.
But, you know, you still have read 1,800 other books that were influenced by The Hobbit. Like, you're gonna be a little bored.
It's old news.
Right. Through no fault of The Hobbit. I feel like I have to apologize for Anna hating The Hobbit. Because...
No, it's a terrible book. I will stand by this. This will be the hill that I die on. I don't care. Tolkien, okay, I'll give him this. Tolkien is really great at creating a world that you really believe in. And it's very, like, it's alive, you know? Like, and he put a lot of thought in detail, like, obviously, he's come up with an entire languages for this book. I don't know. Like, that part is all fantastic. But he's really bad at writing.
Strong words.
Like, there are a lot of things about his writing style that very much annoyed me. The first being the trope where, like, the author talks to the reader.
See, and I love that.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Because... this guy,
I wanted
the narrator,
more of that.
No, the narrator that talked to us, I was like, he was so lazy in some parts. Let me find like a few quotes. And I think they were supposed to be charming, but to me, I was just like, this is really lazy characterization. And kind of again goes along with like this book is one Deus Ex Machina after another. Let me find the quote. Sorry, I'm scrolling through them now. Okay, so there's this quote. It's not the one exactly I was looking for, but it is an example of it where they're talking about the food supplies, and he brings up cram for the first time, and this is like 80% of the way through the book, and he just brings up this idea of cram, and he says, "If you want to know what cram is, I can only say that I don't know the recipe, but it is biscuitish." But like, then just to call it a biscuit, like. See, why did you have to come up with this special term 80% of the way through the book and just be like, it's like a biscuit? Oh, okay. And there's like another quote earlier on in the book where, I don't know, Bilbo does something amazing to save the day, and he says something along the lines of like, there's also a lot of other things that Bilbo is really good at, but I don't have time to tell you. Just like, I think, characterize him differently then.
I think I like it because it kind of reminds me of me when I'm telling a story. Where I'm just like, I know I've gone on too long and I need to shut up. And like, okay, like there's other stuff I could tell you, but it's not relevant right now. Like, so like, I get it.
But like, this book is less than 300 pages. It's 231 pages on the Kindle.
Do you want it to be longer though?
No, I don't want it to be long. Like, it's so weird. I want it to be better, more description in some areas, and way, 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 way less in others. So it was just very, like, tedious to read. And yeah. I felt like there was no sense of danger or suspense at all in the whole book. Because, again, there would be these asides where he was like, oh, but don't worry, because as you know, they get out of this just A-okay, and now I'll explain to you how they did it.
Right, but again, I think, like, I think that's, like, kind of I mean, it's so derivative of, like, oral tradition stuff, like, Norse mythology and Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda and Beowulf and all this other shit that's, you know, very, very originally was spoken and whatever. So, I mean, like, I feel like I like that because it's like he's in the room telling a story. And I don't know. I think it works for what he's going for. I do agree that it could get a little bit grating, I guess. But I liked it, so whatever. Whatever. The one thing I really didn't like, though, about this book that became pretty obvious about halfway through, I realized that there had been 0 female characters.
Oh my god, yes.
And then I was like, well, maybe I'm just missing them. Like, because I knew there weren't female characters in the sense of, like, main characters in this book.
Right.
But I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to, like, try to pay attention to see if anybody gets mentioned, like a side character, like a wife, mother situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure from the halfway point on, the only female character who is mentioned at all, like, at all, is the wife of the crow. And that's it. And then so there's like a crow, right, that like after the dwarves return to their mountain and they've killed Smaug and the other armies are forming at this point, there's like this aside about how there used to be an old crow that lived there and he had a wife, and then another crow shows up and is like, bark bark, I'm 100 years old and I'm the son of that other crow. So like I don't think crows say bok
crows
bok.
go bok bok.
You know what? In The Hobbit they do. So.
Oh, okay. No, but in The Hobbit actually they talk in like people voices, you know, with their fully developed
vocal cords and tongues. But they say bok bok first.
And they say bok bok.
But anyway, so that's the only female character that I heard. There was one more because I went back and I opened I had the like online The Hobbit up just to like kind of, when I had a chance, compare it to the audio version just to see like what he was cutting and whatever, which wasn't much, but was like descriptions and stuff. Anyway, so I went to that and I just like searched for she. And I searched for he with spaces before and after. So just the word she, just the word he. For he, there is 1,780 instances in this book of he. For she, there is 1.
Oh my god.
And that is Belladonna Took, who is Bilbo's dad, or Bilbo's mom.
And a surprising twist was Bilbo's dad.
It was an error. There wasn't supposed to be an S there. But no, it's
like in The Office in the Agent Michael Scarn script with the one instance of Dwiggett.
Yeah. Yep. He went through and was just like, there needs to be 0 women. No, but there is one woman referenced. There are 2 women referenced in this entire book, as far as I can find / remember. A crow who is the mother of a crow who appears in the book, and Bilbo's mom, who again doesn't appear in the book, just is mentioned.
Yes, and is also married to the best name ever, Bungo Baggins.
Bungo Baggins.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, man. Yeah, so that bothered me, because, like, I feel like that has to be intentional at that point, because, I mean, even if you're of that era, and you're like, oh, women don't go on journeys, like, there would still be women around. Like, there would be women.
Like the elves.
Right, like, there's gotta be a lady elf, and I mean, like, I guess one of the dwarfs could be a woman and Bilbo just didn't notice, because there's that whole bit in Lord of the Rings where Gimli's like, oh, lady dwarves are just the same as regular dwarves, but, you know, people don't realize that because they have beards too or whatever. So I don't know, maybe half of these dwarves are actually women, and since it's mainly like Bilbo's perspective, he just didn't catch on to that, but
because he's dumb.
Seems unlikely. Seems like Tolkien just sucks and didn't put any women in his book.
You know, and maybe if he had, like, they wouldn't have done so many stupid things to get themselves in trouble.
I mean, I don't know if we can
progress the plot of the story.
If we can fairly say that, because I suspect lady hobbits are just as stupid as men hobbits. Dwarves. Oh no, hobbits. Because Bilbo's also stupid. Like,
yes, Bilbo's very stupid.
Yeah, so if Bilbo was a chick, I don't think this would really go any different. But I mean, but if anything, that's an argument for making Bilbo a chick, because it literally would have no effect on the plot if any of these characters were male or female. So it's literally just default male everything.
Yeah. Yeah, like the inability to even think of a woman in a situation outside of childcare, I guess.
Well, they're not even caring for the children. Like, I don't think there's any children in this.
I don't think there's any children either.
Really.
That's why all the women are with the children, wherever that may be.
There's a lot of food talk, though. You would think there would at least be some women cooking something.
Yeah, and that's kind of surprising when they're in the Elven Kingdom in the scary forest,
Mirkwood,
or whatever.
Mirk Forest,
yeah,
Mirks.
yeah, and the cook was like male and not female.
Yeah,
so I guess that was slightly progressive.
I don't know. Is it, or is he literally just trying to erase all women? Like, I don't think this is a crazy. And I mean, I think everyone who listens to this podcast, even semi-regularly, realizes that I'm a crazy feminist, but like, I don't think this is a particularly crazy feminist stance to take, to say that of the 800 characters in this book, the fact that only 2 of them are women is kind of shitty. Like,
and that they are only briefly mentioned.
Right. Like, I don't know.
I guess that's why they had to throw in all those female characters. The one female character.
Yeah, all those female characters.
All those female character that everyone was pissed off about.
Well,
isn't it like Galadriel? Isn't she in the Hobbit movies too, briefly?
I think so, probably, yes.
Maybe. I don't
know.
I only watched them each once, just like with the original Lord of the Rings trilogy movies.
I've seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy many, many times, because I actually really, really love that movie series. But it's fine.
I've heard it 1,000 times in the background because Michael watches them all the time.
It's because they're good.
I stupidly bought him the uncut version with like the
fool of a
7,000 hours of extras. Yeah. So that's always fun.
I'm so sorry, but
it's my fault.
You brought this.
It was my own undoing. Which, whatever, it's fine. They're just very long movies, and maybe that says something more about me not having the attention span to watch 4-hour-long movies. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the person I am because of that.
I remember I used to watch Lord of the Rings a lot with my cousins who were like the very religious cousins. Because it was like it was an okay, well, because it's, kind of a Christian allegory.
Okay.
So like that was okay, but they were not permitted to watch Harry Potter. So like that was like one of the go-to movies for when they came over.
I would not. I'd break them. It's like I can't do it anymore. I'd rather read the chick tracts than
oh my god.
Watch these movies
oh my god.
Time.
I just want to mention to the listeners that when Anna says I would have read the chick tract, she's not like just speaking facetiously. These cousins also brought chick tracts with them when they came over for sleepovers.
They
brought
really cool
chick tracts, which for those of you who don't know, chick tracts are like these little comic books that are like everyone's going to hell except for me sort of books. They're terrible.
This is why everything you love is
part
of the devil.
Everything's trash. And one of these chick tracts was like, this is why Catholics are going to hell. And they brought them over. Like they had like 10 or 20 and we were like reading them because I don't know. And
politeness,
I guess. And we were like reading this and I was like, you guys know we're Catholic, right? And they did not know that, and it was very awkward.
Well, yes.
It was a fun sleepover.
Oh, I'm sure it was. But, it's all good now.
I don't know. I don't think I've talked to either of them in like a year.
Anyway.
Oh, man. Let's see. What else bothered us about this book? Or what else did we like? Oh, you know what else bothered me?
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh,
No,
I was gonna say we could talk about like
you can talk about the things you hate.
Well, I was just thinking now that we've talked about the plot of the book and everything else about the book, to circle back around to why it should have been split into two books, which was our very first point.
Yeah.
Because okay, so the 80% mark is when Smaug dies in a very like off-screen way.
Yeah. So like,
and everyone rejoices.
If you haven't read the book or seen the movies, which I don't remember how much. I think in the movies it's the same setup, but like the characters that kill Smaug have been in the movies more at that point, essentially.
Yes.
Like they're more of characters.
I think I can't remember if it's. I think the second movie he's introduced, and then he dies at the very beginning of the third movie. Am I spoiling anything for you?
Wait,
who haven't seen the movies?
The dragon?
Yeah,
Smaug I thought he dies at the end of the second one.
No, he definitely dies in the beginning.
I totally thought he died at the end of the second one.
I think so.
I thought Desolation of Smaug was the second one, and it was like a dual meaning because it was like he's desolating everything, and then he gets desolated.
Let's see. Which Hobbit movie does Smaug die
When does Smaug die?
Yeah. So in The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, Smaug attacks Lake Town.
So how the fuck does the second one die? Or second one end then?
The second one ends with him flying out of the mountain, I think.
Have I seen
and,
the
like,
third one?
up.
I swear. I've only seen the second one, but I remember the Smaug
because
dying.
I was trying to remember under what pretense I was tricked into going to see the third movie, because there's no way I would have gone after having, well, I don't know how I got to see the second movie. I went to go see the first movie and I hated it, and then somehow I was tricked into going to see the next two in theaters, and I don't know how or why.
Okay, so alright. So Smaug Dragon, he has some conflict with the dwarves in the mountain, and then he like
no, he doesn't even interact with the dwarves. He only interacts with Bilbo.
Right. But they're in the mountain at that point.
Yes, they're in the mountain, and they. So Smaug is like, Bilbo goes to talk to him, and he's like, "I'm gonna tell you about myself, but only in riddles, because this is how you talk to dragons."
Yes. As one does.
Smaug says, "I bet you're with those guys out at the lake town. I'm gonna go eat them."
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
And he flies out of the mountain. And then Bilbo's like, "Oh, guys, I gotta go to the dwarves." And they spend like the next 3 days just hiding from Smaug inside the mountain. But it comes
and
out
like
that
stealing,
like Smaug died.
Stealing treasure and shit. They're like getting the
and putting on armor and
like having a
like
fashion show. And
it's
like a really fun sleepover. And then Keely brings out the chick tracks, and it makes everyone uncomfortable. and Thorin's like, Keely, I know you're my nephew, but like this is a little awkward. Didn't you know that I'm like Catholic or whatever the dwarf equivalent is?
The Arkenstone will make you go to hell. Didn't you know the Arkenstone is like my people's thing? So they spend all this time hiding from Smaug, only for the narrator to tell us that Smaug like died almost immediately after talking to Bilbo.
And then we get the story of how that happens, which is he was attacking the lake town and they were all freaking out, and then this character shows up who is a cool fucking character but has not been introduced until this point.
Yep.
And is essentially, let's just say, the Aragorn of this book.
They look similar.
Yeah, he's
in the movies.
Oh, they do, yeah. And he's like of a noble line, but now they don't really have the noble part, and he's going to be like all
he'll be a king one day.
And also he like leads the people without expecting shit back and whatever. That whole vibe.
That whole trope.
That vibe, yeah.
Yeah.
And he has stringy brown hair.
And some facial hair.
And some vague facial hair, and is white.
Yep, pretty much.
So he is like, I'm gonna shoot this dragon, and then he does successfully, because he's got like a missing scale.
Yeah. And Bilbo notices it, and then Bilbo notices it, and then like a bird comes and tells Bard, the guy who shot the dragon.
Which that's
a bird comes and talks to him and is like, "Look, there's a soft spot on the dragon." And the guy, he like doesn't even question this. He's like, "Yes, talking bird, I will shoot the dragon."
About this fantasy world is that birds play a lot bigger of a role than I remember. Like, they're just constantly doing shit.
Thing for
so many birds. I was like, because there was the eagles, there were the crows, there were some other birds.
Well, we had to say crows and ravens are very different.
Oh,
apparently.
yeah, because like ravens are evil or something, and crows. No, they're not. They're different.
Are they?
Well, I mean, like, they're both large black birds, but they are different species. Like,
I thought they were the same. I thought that was just different words.
No.
Shut up. Okay, cut that. I'm stupid.
No, I'm leaving that in.
Oh, I lived my whole life thinking this lie.
But yeah, anyway, lots of birds. So that shit all happens, and then the dwarves and thrushes. Yeah.
I know that one.
The crow bird tells all the dwarves and shit that Smaug's dead, and that a bunch of armies are coming their way. So there's the elves.
It's all very dumb.
There's
and convoluted.
How many armies? Okay, because it says there's 5.
There's 5,
but like, what are they? Because like,
it is the humans, the elves.
But aren't they one army?
Well, I think they were counted as 2 separate ones because it was the humans.
Well, that's stupid because they're working for the same goals.
Well, here's the thing. I thought it was the humans, the elves, and then Thorin's group of dwarves, and then Dane's group of dwarves, which is Thorin's brother or uncle or some relative of some sort. And then the goblins was the last one.
Okay, I have several opinions on this because, number one, the elves and the humans should not be counted as separate armies because they are working together for the same purposes. So that's stupid. Number 2, I don't believe we can count 13 dwarves as an army. So I don't know
they
that
had
Thorin's
the mountain
group
on their side. and Bilbo.
Like, that doesn't count, though.
And Gandalf, so, you know.
But Gandalf's not on their side, though. He's on the elf side.
Oh, that's right.
At this point.
That's right.
At this point. Because he shows up as in disguise and is like, haha, it's I, Gandalf.
And Bilbo's like, oh, I thought you were just another old man that looked exactly like my friend.
And then he does the exact same trick again when they're talking to Thorin.
Yeah.
And Thorin's like, gosh, I wish Gandalf was here. And Gandalf's like, your wish is my command.
Ta-da! It's magic.
It's Gandalf.
And I'm very disappointed in you, Thorin.
Yeah, because essentially Thorin's like, well, here's the thing. I don't get why. Maybe I just like spaced out during this part because it was like 2.5 hours in. Why does Gandalf think the elves and the humans are in the right here?
I don't know. I didn't understand this whole stupid plot after Smaug died. It was so like.
It was fun. I liked it. But I was into it.
It was so like feebly held together.
Yeah.
So, and I think that, and I will say this, I know a lot of book readers out there can be like, oh my god. But I think like this is something that the movie does better than the book, is kind of display Thorin's descent into madness over the gold, because they only mention it a few times in the book, and they're like, oh, the old master of Lake Town went crazy over the gold that he got and like ran away with it and died, whatever. It's like they mention it a couple times, but like I guess,
and they say like the dwarves go crazy for gold, and I'm like, okay, but like show don't tell though.
Exactly, that was this whole book, and I hate, oh my god. It was just like this guy sitting at his keyboard saying, this is my fantasy book, and this is how you will understand it, and this is the only way to read it, and there will be no other interpretations because it is my fantasy book. So anyway. So I guess what happens in the last 20% of the book is Thorin goes mad with gold lust and doesn't want to compensate the humans that like they kind of royally screwed over for no reason, because Smaug went and destroyed their town and killed a bunch of them and destroyed everything and their way of life, and they're like, we just want a little bit of gold to help us out with that. And he's like, now it's my gold. And so what happens is Bilbo takes Thorin's most valued piece of treasure, the Arkenstone, sneaks out of the mountain and gives it to the humans and the elves and says, here, use this to barter with the dwarves to get gold. But I'm like, well, first of all, that's like, why didn't you just take like something else of equal value? Because they don't even use...
why didn't... Right, why... Here's what it really should have... I mean, like, if this made any sense. Because Bilbo's whole thing is like, he just wants peace, and he doesn't care about the gold, which, like, that's admirable. Like, that's nice of him. But, like, he's entitled to 14% of this
1/14.
Or 1/14. Sorry, you're right. And, my bad. But, and Thorin has already said, like, he has already started to give him stuff. He's like, okay, here, you can have this armor. This is the first part of your payment. So, like, why the fuck didn't Bilbo just wait for his whole 14th and then just fucking give it to the humans?
Yeah.
And then, like, that's it. Like, why did he have to do this whole thing with the stone?
Yeah, like, so he says, like...
Or why didn't he just tell Thorin? He's like, okay, like, I think you're being a dick, man. Like, you owe me a 14th, I'm giving it to them. Yes. And then maybe Thorin would be like, oh, you're right, I am being a dick.
Or been like, okay, that's a stupid waste of gold, but here you go, everyone, story over. Like...
Right. Instead of Bilbo... Which, first off, like... Bilbo didn't know about all of this conflict when he stole the fucking Arkenstone and hid it for like 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, he just like, found it and was like, this is what my friend's been looking for a whole year.
I'm gonna hide it
in my pocket. Yeah.
Right. So like Bilbo's kind of a shitty friend.
Yes. Like this is like the second huge major piece of treasure he's just like stolen and kept for himself, and like I mean, the ring is
the ring. It's useful, like, well,
and he did steal it from Gollum, which is.
But he also didn't know it was Gollum's when he picked it up. True. It was just lying around. He was like, oh, a ring, cool. So, like, yes, later it was revealed that it was Gollum's, but Gollum also wanted to eat him. I do feel Bilbo was probably in the right at that point. But with this one, I mean, like, I would entertain debates on that, but with this one, it was like, you're just being a dick. Why are you being a dick?
Why did you hide this for no reason? And maybe there was something.
I mean, like, I guess it worked out for you, but
it's his Hobbit luck. His Hobbit luck. He's so lucky. Everyone lucky. Look. Oh, it's just so irritating how everything worked out so perfectly for him for no reason, other than that he's lucky. But yeah, so he takes this Arkenstone and he gives it to the people in a very convoluted plan where he lies to all of his friends and it's like. He sneaks out and sneaks back in.
And Gandalf's there and is like, great job, Bilbo. You're such a good boy.
Yeah, and everyone's like, you are so honorable. You were like the best person we have ever met,
no, he
Bilbo.
fucking stole that.
Yeah. Like, he could have brought a small chest of gold and been like, this is more than enough for you guys to rebuild your town. So
he could have just talked to Thorin and been like, dude, you're being a dick, instead of going behind his back. I mean, like, I get that maybe Thorin wouldn't have listened and the story could have progressed from there, but, like, he didn't
even try.
He didn't try.
Like, no one knew how unhappy Bilbo was about all these circumstances.
Right, Bilbo's just like, everybody's like, oh, cool, look at all this gold. This is so much fun. I'm glad we found all this gold. And Bilbo's just over in the corner like, this is no fun. Everyone's being mean to each other and I don't like it.
I wish I could go back to my hobbit hole and eat from my larders.
Like, nobody is... You need to use your words, Bilbo. You need to tell them what's bothering you.
See, if only there was a woman there to facilitate this conversation.
Right? So then, they pull this little switcheroo, and Thorin's like, fine, I'll give you Bilbo's 1/14 in exchange for the Arkenstone. And then they're, like, trying to do the exchange, but actually Thorin's like, fuck this, I'm gonna attack them once my uncle gets here. So then, like, his uncle's army shows up and is like, fuck you guys, and then
there's a bunch of fighting.
And then there's some fighting there, and then the fucking goblins or whatever show up, and then everyone fights the goblins, and Thorin dies, and Fili and Kili die. It is.
In off-screen ways. Like, we don't get to see Thorin die, or...
Yeah, the whole part where Bilbo's like, the eagles are coming, and then, like, blacks out for, like, all of the climax
the most exciting
of the book.
part of it, yeah.
That was a choice.
Yeah. Again, just like this lazy writing where it's just the narrator's like, well, let me tell you what happened.
Right. I wasn't too thrilled about that. I thought that was pretty lame. But again, like, this was just the last 20% of the book, and everything was kind of rushed at this point, which is why it should have been a completely separate book, because we had gotten to the end of the, like, story arc with the last book, which was let's go find the gold and get the gold and defeat Smaug. Like, all this fighting stuff was a completely different storyline.
It would have been so interesting, like, I don't know, a whole book full of political intrigue about, like, who will become the king, and how will they maintain their kingdom.
I mean, it would have been Game of Thrones too.
Yeah.
It would have been the second Game of Thrones book, essentially.
This is true.
I mean, like, literally, because that's also, like, 5 armies,
The Hobbit
right?
too, Clash of Kings. Clash of 5 armies.
Exactly.
I guess. Let's write the fanfic. Let's flesh this out.
Throw in some ladies.
And actually, it turns out that both Fili and Kili were women the whole time.
But then the only girl characters die. They can't be the
Oh,
girls.
that's right. Never mind. Well, then they lived. See, this is our fanfic. We can do whatever we want.
That's true. That's true.
It's just an AU Hobbit fanfic written by
You know what? Let's scrap the whole army thing. Let's just do a coffee shop AU.
Oh my god, yes. And we'll also do a crossover with the Marvel comic universe. And they'll all become Avengers. It'll be so good. Bilbo and the Hulk. Like, I'd totally ship that.
Let me think. I mean, first off, I feel like there would be size issues there, but that's
okay, but then, like, there's also Bruce, and you know that, like, Bruce and Bilbo would both just want to have, like, little quiet lives where they sit in their hobbit hole and have tea, but then the Hulk comes out, and Bilbo has to learn to love that, too.
I think that Bilbo would go better with, like, I don't know, like, Ant-Man or something. Now I haven't seen the most recent Ant-Man.
Ant-Man would be interesting.
Because, like, I feel like he needs someone who would, like, push him into adventures more. But, like, not like in a, like, Captain America would be like, we need to save things, Bilbo, sort of thing.
That would be very boring. Yeah,
I don't think Bilbo would be into that. I think he needs to, like, fall into adventures. And I feel like Ant-Man, maybe Doctor Strange, something like that. No, Doctor Strange. Well, then you run into the issue of they're both, that a Benedict Cumberbatch voiced character already exists in Bilbo's
and I
world.
Was just going to bring up that Evangeline Lilly would be both the Wasp and
That's true. That's true, but only if we're going with the movie version of The Hobbit. Like,
well, we could play around with it.
Okay, all right. Write us know. Write us and let us know which Avenger you ship Bilbo with.
And why. I want a full detailed response.
Full essay, please.
Yes, it has to make sense. Don't just say, like, oh, Bilbo and Nick Fury. Like, what sense does that make? Yeah. None.
Although, no, Nick Fury would be, like, hooking up with Gandalf, if anyone.
Yeah, but it'd be, like, really low-key and we wouldn't find out till the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It would be, like, at the end and, like, everything's defeated and then, like, you pan, like, camera pans left and, like, Gandalf and Nick Fury are just, like, going at it.
They're just like, making out, yeah.
Just making out, and, like, Nick Fury's eye patch is, like, askew.
Yeah, and, like, Gandalf's staff is setting off sparks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a euphemism. The fanfic just writes itself. I don't
really. This is the crossover we've all been waiting for. Oh, jeez.
I kind of want to see now. Hold on, I'm going to go to fanfiction.net and see if there are crossovers.
I guarantee you there are.
I love how a lot of our rewind episodes are devolving into us going to, well, a lot of them, 2 of them. Control F Hobbit. Scarlet Witch and the 13 Dwarfs. Wanda Maximoff unexpectedly finds herself joining the quest of Erebor. Now that's something we didn't think of. What? Scarlet Witch and Gandalf, though.
I'm
or
not
Scarlet
a fan.
Witch and Thorin. I don't know.
I actually really, really like Scarlet Witch and
what's his name?
What's his face?
Yeah.
In the most recent Avengers.
Jarvis. What's his name? Vision. The Vision.
Vision. Yeah. I know some people are not into that because it's like, oh, it's just like they're not. I like really think they're cute, so like they're kind of my go-to ship for Scarlet Witch.
Are they your MCU OTP?
I don't know if I really have a OTP for the MCU.
I'll have to think about this. I also like Black Widow and Hulk though. Or Bruce Banner.
I just went to AO3 to look and see what they've got going on, because you know that's where you go for the really weird fucking shit. And I searched for The Hobbit and looked limited to only crossovers. So the first one is Hobbit, Doctor Who, Doctor Strange, Sherlock, Harry Potter, Star Trek, Lucifer, Chronicles of Narnia.
So
like,
really
just throwing it all in there.
Just all Benedict Cumberbatch all the time.
And there's about 1,800 tags on it.
Love it.
The next one is with some TV show that's in Spanish, and I don't know what it is, sorry. And then the next one is Avengers Hobbit, and it looks like, who are we shipping in here? Let's find out.
There's a lot on fanfiction.net. It seems to be Loki and the Elven King Thranduil.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, it looks like this one's some Loki Thranduil. Thranduil?
I like Thranduil.
Thranduil it is. Yeah, so Loki Thranduil stuff. And we've got Bilbo Thorin, which that's not a crossover
that's the choice.
One. I mean, I could see it, I guess. What the fuck? This one is, I don't know where this is going, but The Avengers, Once Upon a Time, Supernatural, iZombie, Scream, and
what?
The Hobbit, and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats. Why?
Shut up.
How? There are no characters in that show. What are you doing? What do you mean cats?
I'm trying to. The only person I know from Cats is Mr. Mistopheles, since I'm trying to make a joke, but it's not coming.
It can't. Did you see though that they're making a Cats movie?
Yes, with Taylor Swift and a bunch of other big names, and I'm so confused.
It's gonna be a wild ride. I am on board for it. It's gonna be terrible, but like I'm there for it.
Oh, for sure. All of these live musicals being broadcast on TV.
Well, is it
the direction we're going
broadcast
in,
one, or is it like an actual movie one? I thought it was an actual movie.
I assumed it was.
Oh, I assumed
it was like the Jesus Christ Superstar
I thought
thing.
it was like an actual movie. Hold on, let me look it up.
Oh my god, if it's a movie, that's hilarious to me. We gotta pause. Hold on. Cats movie Tay-Tay. That's what I'm Googling. Surprisingly, that did not have the correct results.
Jennifer Hudson, Taylor Swift, and James Corden.
Oh yeah, that was it. It was like these huge names. I'm like, doesn't Jennifer Hudson?
Ian McKellen's already in it, so this is basically built to be a Hobbit crossover.
Oh my god. That AO3 writer was just like so far.
They knew.
Know. But don't James Corden and Jennifer Hudson have anything better to do than star in Cats?
I mean, I think James Corden.
He doesn't need to add those to his Broadway credits.
He doesn't need it, but I just feel like he is kind of down for whatever dumb shit anyone wants him to do. Yeah, like, I don't think he has a filter when it comes to choosing his musicals,
like,
you know?
I could see him being the type of guy who's just like, I just don't want to let anyone down, you know?
Yeah.
You had me in mind for this role, and I just really don't want to.
Like, someone asked him, and he was like, well, I don't want to disappoint.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I tape my.
Actually, you know what? It makes sense that someone tried to mix up Cats and Hobbit, because Cats is based on like the T.S. Eliot poems, and I think Eliot and Tolkien were like
buds,
friends of some sort. Like I know Tolkien and Lewis were, and I know Lewis and Eliot were, so I feel like they were all friends, and
probably
they knew. They knew
someday in the future there would be this thing called fan fiction.
T.S. Eliot's poems would be adapted.
There's a lot that they had to foresee there.
There was a lot, but they knew. Yeah, I can't tell if it... Hold on, let me see. It just says that it's an upcoming movie version.
Okay, so
I don't think it's a live... I don't think it's one of the NBC sort of live musicals. I think it is...
Wow.
Going to be in theaters.
Wow.
Which, that's a choice.
Do I want to pay to go see it?
Yes. Here's the thing I want to know. I want to know if they're going to do, like, CGI cats, or if they are
Or
going to be dressed
practical
as
effects.
cats. Because if they are not dressed as cats, what is even the point?
What if it's like, what if it's like an animated film of cats?
No, I'm not here for that. I want
No.
them to be dressed
I
as
want
cats.
to see them with whiskers.
Yes, please.
Please put whiskers and cat ears on Ian McKellen, please.
Please. It's all I want in life. Well, that about wraps it.
Yeah. What a good episode. How did we get here?
Fan fiction. Fan fiction did
love
this
it.
to
I
us.
love it. Fan fiction is so good though. Like, love fan fiction.
So, I've talked about several things that I liked in this, like most of the book. But did you have any silver lining thing?
I mean, like you said, it has influenced so much coming after it that it's kind of hard to just dismiss this book as like a really crappy book. So I guess there is that. And I mean, it's definitely stood the test of time, and people are still enjoying it and wanting to create their own visions of it, however willingly or not Peter Jackson was to do that, I don't know, but
right.
I mean, and people still enjoy it. It's just not my cup of tea. So I guess I can appreciate it from that standpoint. Like, it did a lot for the genre. A lot of work did go into it. And it inspires other people, just not me.
Oh, man. Well, all right, I'll take it. Who did you relate to the most?
I had a couple for this one.
Oh, really? Because I felt like most of the characters were barely characters.
That's true. That is true. It was kind of one of those books where it was like any name could have been put into attached to any line of dialogue or any action. You would have been like, yeah, I believe that. I did, though. I really appreciated Bilbo's desire to just like go home and eat a lot of food. That's how I feel when I've been gone for a long period of time, like a couple hours from my house. I was like, I want to go home and just eat a lot of food now.
Sure.
And I also really dug the cook in the Elven Kingdom in the what is it, Mirkwood?
Yeah.
He just like he opened up a cask of his boss's of the king's wine, and he drank and got really drunk off his ass and fell asleep. I was like, I'm there for that too. So I appreciated those two characters in those two moments. How about you?
Oh, I already said the narrator.
Oh, yeah, the narrator.
Because
so
I want to tell you a really long story and not let you talk at all. And my stories tend to have a lot of asides that don't really need to be there and don't make sense.
And just don't worry about it. It just is the way it is, because that's another story. That's one you say a lot. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. Yep. So that was my pick whole way through.
All right. So what would you rather be reading then?
I feel like I want you to go first because there is a slight possibility that my rather be reading might be your rather be reading.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Slight.
Maybe not. I was thinking of like, I was like, oh, I should maybe try and find another classical fantasy book that I like. And then I was like, I can't think of any. So I was like, well, what else did this book have? Oh, dragons. So I chose for my rather be reading. I chose for my rather be reading this fortnight, the Dealing with Dragons series by Patricia C. Wrede.
Love it. Oh my God, love it.
First of all, strong female character as the main character. Secondly, subverts a lot of fantasy tropes. And
it also, like Lord of the Rings, or like The Hobbit, draws super heavily from oral tradition.
Yes.
Because it's like all about fairy tales and stuff.
Yes. And also is very funny. Is middle grade, well, maybe a little bit younger than middle grade.
Yeah, I think middle grade. Yeah. I know around middle grade was when I was reading them, and I lent one of them to my friend, who shall remain nameless, but she borrowed it and then never gave it back and lost it. And then for a birthday present the next year, she gave me a gift card to Half Price Books and said, here, now you can go buy that book that I lost. And they didn't even have it at Half Price Books. No. It was I'm still so mad about it.
Well, I still have my 4 original copies from when I was in
I only have
school,
3.
So, salty, huh?
I'm gonna go reread that though. I haven't read it in
I know,
forever.
yeah. Let's read it at the same time and discuss how much I love it.
Yes, it's so good.
So, Dealing with Dragons is the Enchanted Forest Chronicles by Patricia C. Wrede. Is it Reed or Reedy?
Reed, I think.
Okay. And they're a quartet of books about the Princess Cimarron, who is not like other princesses. Of course, she's like a tomboy, and she doesn't want to do all the regular princess things. And so she, instead of being kidnapped by a dragon, like many princesses are, and then saved by their Prince Charming, she decides to go and run away to live with the dragon. And whenever a prince comes to try and rescue her, she turns them away because she really enjoys living with this dragon, who, the name of the dragon is escaping me at the moment, but is also a very wonderful character.
Yes. And I like how, like you mentioned, like she's like, oh, and she's not like other girls sort of thing, which can be a very annoying trope, I think. But there are other girly characters in the books who are like well-rounded represented characters. Because I know there's like other princesses who are more traditional princesses and do want to be rescued by a guy, and they're not like hardcore judged for that.
Yeah.
So it's very...
And I think Cimarron, too, she's very respectful of that and wants what's best for everyone in every situation that they're in. So, yeah, like I'm saying, it's not one of those preachy, like, don't be that type of girl, and I'm the type of girl that doesn't get along with girls sort of girl. She's just...
Right. All my friends are boys.
She's just like a cool kid who'd rather live with a dragon than fulfill her duties as a princess,
which, you know.
Yes.
Same.
And, I mean, well, minor spoiler, she does end up finding a prince, but...
Yeah, but, you know...
Their relationship is so much, like, they're on equal footing that it's wonderful. And it's amazing that this is middle grade because it's just really good.
It's so
There's
good.
a lot of good
all
stuff
4
going
books.
on.
Love them all.
So that's my rather be reading, is that whole series.
Excellent
because dragons.
One. Yeah. Mine, well, first off, this is one that I like, literally I have it sitting on my coffee table right now because I just ordered it after seeing it at your apartment when I visited last week. And I think it goes well with this because one of the kind of legacies of this type of fantasy, which, you know, like Hobbit, Lord of the Rings was a huge influence on high fantasy sort of genre, was, I'm going to say Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes!
And I obviously, like, you know, there's some debate over how much Dungeons and Dragons was directly inspired by Lord of the Rings, which I think, like, Gygax, I think, said, like, oh, it really wasn't. But, like, it is obviously working within that genre. And so the book that I would rather be reading right now is The Adventure Zone, Here There Be Gerblins.
Yes, oh my god!
Which I just ordered because I saw Anna got it, which is
good. It's so good.
If you don't know, by the McElroy brothers and their father, and Carey Pietsch. Yep. Okay, Carey Pietsch, who are podcasters, and they do. Here's the thing: I do not listen to their podcast because
it's my brother and me is the first one, and then there's like a bunch that stem from that.
Yes, I have never listened to any of their stuff.
Please do.
Because, okay, give me a second to explain.
No, it's inexcusable.
As listeners may or may not know, I am a single person who occasionally dates men, not always, but sometimes, and I have some online dating profiles out there. And on these online dating profiles, I mentioned that I like podcasts, and every straight boy on the planet tells me, when they message me, you should listen to my brother and me. And so as a response to that, because a very specific subset of nerd boys recommend my brother and me to me all the time, I've like vehemently tried to avoid them. So I don't actually listen to the podcast. But when I was up visiting you, stop.
Wait, I introduced you to the show. The TV show.
When I was up visiting Anna, we were watching their TV show, and it was quite funny. So now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll listen to it. And I thought I would, get their book that just came out. Mm-hmm. It is a graphic novel, and it looks very cute, and it is...
it's so inclusive. It's very good.
Yeah, so that's my rather be reading for this fortnight.
Excellent choice. It's very good. It's based off of their actual play D&D podcast, Adventure Zone.
Yes. I should have mentioned.
I don't know if you. I mean, I think those words were
all there.
Talked too
long.
I think all those words were there, just not in the right order.
All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for this fortnight.
Yes.
We have a little bit of a change, I guess, in the schedule. So next fortnight, Anna will actually not be with us. Very sadly, she's taking a little break. Mm-hmm. Instead, we will have a guest host. Morgan Malin, who is a friend of the podcast, and she's going to be on. And let me pull up our real quick
21
thing,
because that's the number that comes after 20.
No. I'm pulling up. Shut the fuck up.
Another joke our listeners won't get because it was. Oh no, it was in the stinger of that one episode.
I think it was at the end. Yeah. Okay, so. Well, actually, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to tell you our challenge. And if you're like, because, okay, here's the thing. The next book I want to challenge you to is over 400 pages.
Okay.
Which I know is against our rules.
That's okay.
But I really want to do this one.
If we've got if there's a break, then.
Because she said she would do that one if you didn't want to do it.
Oh. Well, let me hear what it is first, then.
No. As long as you're okay with the length, we're doing it.
How many pages over 400 is it?
477.
Okay. Well, I'll have a lot of time.
And I think it should be a pretty quick read, but we'll see.
Good.
Okay, so next fortnight's going to be Morgan, and we're going to be reading, she chose a book that she's read in the past and did not enjoy, so it's going to be The Vanishing Season by Jodi Lynn Anderson.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
I haven't heard of either, although I have heard of Jodi Lynn Anderson. I've read stuff by her, I think.
Let's look this up. You're going to love it. It's a ghost story.
Oh, great. So it's, here's the Goodreads synopsis. Girls started vanishing in the fall, and now winter's come to lay a white sheet over the horror. Door County, it seems, is swallowing the young right into its very dirt. From beneath the house on Water Street, I've watched the danger swell. The residents know me as the noises in the house at night, the creaking on the stairs. I'm the reflection behind them in the glass, the feeling of fear in the cellar. I'm tied, it seems, to this house, this street, this town. I'm tied to Maggie and Pauline, though I don't know why. I think it's because death is coming for one of them, or both. All I know is that the present and the past are piling up, and I am here to dig. I am looking for the things that are buried.
I'm already sick of the narrator.
That's a thing. And so that's what we'll be reading without Anna next fortnight, so come on by for that. But while we're here, I want to go ahead and give Anna a challenge for our 22nd episode.
Huzzah!
It is my turn, right? It is my turn? Is
yes.
that correct?
Yes. Yeah, because I did Legally Blonde. So yes.
Legally Blonde, right. Okay. So, this is our 20th episode.
Huzzah!
I feel like this is a big moment for us. Because of that, I wanted to do a book that we talked about doing when we first started the podcast.
Oh, no.
And at the time, we chose not to do it because it had just come out and was $16 on Kindle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait.
But it has dropped to $4.99.
Oh,
so next
because it must be really good.
We will be reading Handbook for Mortals
by
Lady Sarum.
No! I take it back then. I want Morgan to do that one. No! This is the worst news ever. I'm not going back.
So for those of you who don't know, all of the drama with this book, it's crazy, and we'll get into it when the podcast actually comes out. But essentially, there's a lot of drama behind this book, and there's been a lot of first there's a lot of positive press, and then there's a lot of negative press. And
this is gonna be as bad as Antigua, isn't it? Oh my god.
It's gonna be a journey, and I'm so excited to read it. So yeah, that'll be we'll be reading Vanishing Season by Jodi Lynn Anderson in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks after that we will be doing The Handbook for Mortals by Lainey Sarum. So, very excited. Very excited.
I can't believe there are actually verified purchases of this book on Amazon that have rated it 5 stars. Oh, this one's really believable. This is from Amazon user Kindle Customer. Can I please marry Jackson? Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, I read that one, and I was like, all right, well, we'll get into it when we're back to do that episode. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this fortnight.
Buy now with one click.
If you guys want to follow us on Twitter, we are on Twitter at HateReadcast. And you can also email us, hatereadcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
So, email us and let us know who you ship Bilbo with of the Avengers.
Please, I'm really putting a lot of thought into this now, and if we don't have a conversation about it, I might just write the fanfic, and no one wants that. I don't have time for that. But if you review it, I will write it faster. So, Give me reviews and follows. Favorite.
Follow us on whatever platform you're listening to this on.
We're on all of them.
We're on every platform, you guys, except for Spotify, because
whatever,
they're like for real podcasters.
We're real, just not real popular yet.
Thanks as always to Ben Cope
yes.
for our theme song. You guys can check out his YouTube in the show notes below.
In the words of J.R.R. Tolkien, well, said a voice, just look, Bilbo the Hobbit on a pony, my dear. Isn't it delicious? What is the context for that quote even?
That's gotta be the end, right?
No, it's at the beginning.
Oh, what?
I think the dwarves say it to him.
Why?
Yep. It doesn't say which one. It's just that one. It's just a voice.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
They're all the same.
Isn't it delicious? Oh, let me ask you. So this is another quote I highlighted because it had the word thongs in it. Then the elves put thongs on him and shut him in one of the inmost caves with strong wooden doors and left him. Is thongs another word for, like, handcuffs?
It's
shackles.
Another word for, like, a leather tie.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, is it flip-flops they gave him? What is going on here?
Oh, man. That's gonna be the outro.
Great.